I've already installed the Acuity shifter spring, but during the install, noticed a couple of things that I thought might be helpful when compared to the instructions. And this is if you're just doing the spring itself, not if you're doing the full shifter base bushings and all the rest, the rocker arm and short throw adapter. So the first thing you'll want to do is take off your shift knob, which if you haven't done that before, if you look under here, if you pull the boot down, there's a little tab, and you'll just want to get something flat, like a small screwdriver, or I've got this little keychain pry tool, and you'll just stick it in there and push that tab, and the shift boot and the retention collar will pop free of the knob. Obviously, you're going to want to just spin your knob off. It's threaded with plastic threads, so it's going to feel a little stiff if it's tight to begin with. My car came right from the dealership and factory with an exceedingly loose shift knob. So, alright, once you've done that, Acuity recommends that you disconnect your battery, and if you're doing a full install with all of their shifter components that they make, you most likely want to do that, and the reason is because you're going to disconnect these electrical connectors for these switches here, and it's always best practice to disconnect your battery whenever you're doing anything with the electronics in the car. However, since all we need to do for the shifter spring itself is just take off this top of the console, we're going to go ahead and skip that step of disconnecting the battery, and what we're going to do is just lift up your console lid to get a little extra room. And whether you're on the driver's side or the passenger side, it doesn't matter, but you're going to start by pulling off these side panels that are on the center console. Just reach up under the front on the footwell side, and it'll just pop right off. And then you can very easily do the same thing on the driver's side. Just pops off, simple as that. Now, since you had that console up, just pull, and the whole thing will lift free. And there's your shifter. And there's those electrical connectors that you would be disconnecting if you were taking the whole entire console apart. So we can see the spring in here. Per the directions, left these clear plastic sleeves on. But as you can see, if we stick it in gear, oh, by the way, to pull that shifter boot off, you are going to want to be in neutral. Otherwise, it'll want to hang up on the threads of the shifter a little bit. Where was I? I digress. So, if we stick it in gear, we can see that play. Now, I mean, you can see the whole mechanism, everything's moving a little bit. That fore aft cable down there, that silver rod, that's for the front to back fore and aft movement. You can see that's moving. This rocker arm is pivoting, and it's not engaging this shifter spring. This spring is really only for that centering action. And even the far gates, per Acuity, they're not really affected. If I'm being perfectly honest, I wish those far gates were stiffer as well. I don't know that you can actually do that just with an ordinary spring like this. I don't know what the engineering of it is, but anyway, also of note, on that right down there where the actual shifter linkage attaches to the shifter, or the cable I should say, attaches to the shifter, that has a small spring-loaded clip on it. from the factory. Mine broke off, so one of these guys here, I did this install at where I work, so these little document clips are abundant. So all I did was squeeze it out, and you're left with just this little handle, I guess you could say. So this part of the clip, it just happens to slide down perfectly over the retention slots in that linkage, and it just snapped right into place like it always belonged. Anyway, so that's the shifter. Oh, the play. So you can see, it's probably hard to tell, but you can see that whole tower is moving when I move the shifter side to side. Same thing when it goes front to back. You can see that. Get it to focus on it. So you'll watch. So if you can see when I put tension on this shifter, that whole cable, that rod moves quite a bit. There is a small amount of compliance in the base bushings, but if you look at the gap between the console here and the shifter here, the shifter itself is yielding also. And that is part of the reason why I think I am going to forego doing the base bushings. I might change my mind. I'm prone to do that. If I end up doing the rest of the shifter components, which I would like to do, I may end up just throwing in those base bushings, because to do the rest of the shifter, you do have to take the center console all the way apart. So while I'm in there, it might not hurt just to do those. So after driving around with the spring for a couple of days, here's my thoughts. I mean, it definitely improves the centering action of the shifter. It makes it a lot easier to hit third gear, even just when you're being lazy and in traffic, which personally is when I've missed third the most, is not when I'm in a high performance situation, but just talking to my family, looking out, you know, looking at that car ahead of me, whatever, and just being lazy. And that's when I miss third gear, without a doubt. So it improves that. And I think I paid $24 on Amazon. You know, not real expensive. So it's worth a shot. You know, you might find it to be a bigger improvement for your personal taste than me. You know, all in all, it's definitely a quality product. And just, you know, browsing their other products, everything looks like it's absolutely top notch. And it fits Civics and Accords. So, like if you have the Civic Sport, for example, you're going to see a much more drastic difference. The Accord from the factory has not the stiffest spring that Honda uses, but getting close to it. Appreciate you watching. I'd love to hear comments, suggestions, and thank you.